Alrighty, here we are on lesson 5, dividing fractions and mixed numbers. So this is our day 2 portion of lesson 5. So on the very back page of your packet. So it first says to change mixed numbers to improper fractions, of course if you have them, and then you rewrite, which means we are multiplying by the reciprocal. Then you check for cross division, multiply across, and then simplify. So number 1 here, I'm just going to skip to step 2, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to have 3/8 times 4 over 1. Check for cross division. I can cross divide between my 4 and my 8. I can divide both of those by 4, so I get a 1 and a 2. I can't cross divide anything else, so then I multiply across. I have 3 times 1 is 3, over 2 times 1 is 2, so I have 3 halves. Next, again, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, so I have 6/7 times 14/5. I can cross divide between my 7 and 14, so my 7 becomes a 1, my 14 becomes a 2. I can't cross divide anything else, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply across, so I have 6 times 2 gives me 12, over 1 times 5 is 5, so I end up with 12/5. And number 9 here, again, just going to go right to multiplying by the reciprocal. So I have 3/20 times 4/3. Here I can cross divide both ways. So my 3's become 1's. You can both divide by 3. And with my 4 and my 20, I can divide both of those by 4. So my 4 becomes a 1, and my 20 becomes a 5. So now I just multiply straight across, and I end up with 1/5. Alright, moving down to the second row, I've got some mixed numbers that I need to work with. So first I need to change them to improper fractions. So 7 times 6 is 42, plus 1 is 43. So I have 43/6 still divided by, don't flip it yet. 12 times 2 is 24, plus 7 is 31, so dividing by 31/12. Now I can multiply by the reciprocal. So I have 43/6 times 12/31. I can cross divide with my 6 and my 12. My 6 becomes a 1, my 12 becomes a 2. And that's the only cross dividing I can do. So 43 times 2 is 86 over 31. Number 11, same theory. I got to change these to improper fractions. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 gives me 9. So I have 9/4 divided by 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 is 27, and this is fifths. Now I multiply by the reciprocal. So 9/4 times 5/27. Check for cross division. I can with the 9 and the 27. I can divide both of those by 9. My 9 becomes a 1. My 27 becomes a 3. And that's the only cross division I can do. So when I multiply across, 1 times 5 is 5 over 4 times 3 is 12. So I get 5/12. The last one here, again, I got to change them to improper fractions. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 gives us 15, and these are fourths, divided by 12 times 2 is 24, plus 1 is 25 halves. I multiply by the reciprocal, so 15/4 times 2/25. Here I can cross divide both ways. So with my 2 and my 4, I can divide both of those by 2, so my 2 becomes a 1, my 4 becomes a 2. And then with my 15 and my 25, I can divide both of those by 5. So my 15 becomes a 3, and my 25 becomes a 5. And I can't cross divide anymore, so I multiply straight across, and I have 3 times 1 is 3, over 2 times 5 is 10, so 3/10 is my final answer. So that's all we're going to do for the video, and then we'll do some more practice in class all together.